that's really it's been one of the biggest, like, you're an author now thing, is this dude drove 4 hours to see me at Dragon Con,
That's so
and he, like, shook
cool.
my hand. He's like, "This is like meeting George R. R. Martin for me." I was like, "Excuse me? I need 20 of you."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Real
had to be
special.
so validating in that moment.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah. Yeah. He's a cool guy.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Author Adjacent, a show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I'm your host, Michael Vadney, and today I am sitting here with one half of the dynamic duo that is Mikel D Melwasul, co-author of the Paragon of Exordium, and a series of short stories as well, as you guys have put those together. But welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm glad to see you here with your wizard hat. I've seen them all over the place, so I am glad to be blessed by the red or the crimson hat. Thank you.
This is like the secondary debut. It's the first podcast debut of the Red Hat.
Huzzah. I'll take it. But we're going to have you on here for 2 episodes. This first one, we're just going to be shooting the shit, going over your journey and like how you got to where you are today. And then come back next week, folks. We're going to have Michael back on as we're going to be talking about subverting tropes. So stay tuned for that. But for this episode, I want to start with actually, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Normally I start up with how you got to where you are today. And I think this is going to go into a little bit of that, but tell me about Mikel D. Wassel, because that is one half of a pair. How did that all come to be?
Yeah, so Michael Melwasul was the pen name that I started out with when I started my writing journey because I wanted to I wanted to have a pen name for privacy reasons. I liked the alliteration was part of the appeal. I thought it would stick out a little more than my standard name. Um, and so I launched my series as Michael Melwasul. I started writing under that pseudonym. And then over time, I brought in my buddy Dave as an editor originally, a beta reader, and then I brought him in because he was an English major with military experience. I wanted to have a really grounded modern military experience element to the story. I wanted people who were vets or active soldiers to read it and not go, that's not how that works, right? And oh, they wouldn't talk like that because that's always bothered me and things I'm an expert on. So I brought Dave in for those reasons, and because he was a friend who I was like, this guy will tell me if this is a waste of my time. He's going to be super honest with me. He's going to be straightforward. And he told me what needed work, and we worked on it. And we just kept working on the process together so much that he became like a full time developmental editor, basically for book one. And then by the time we're done with book one, I'm like, you're not just an editor at this point. You are a co-author. So I promoted him, and we added a D to the name for future projects and stuff. So Mikel D Melwasul, because I'm the driving force, but at this point with where we're at in book two and stuff, he's doing a lot of the writing as well. He wrote some of the short stories in our short story collection. He has a spin-off novella about some characters from book one that he's writing independently. And so he's become just such a main part of this entire process that he's inseparable from it.
That's amazing. Like it's so fortunate to find someone that you could really participate in the whole process with. Uh, I'm very fortunate to have like my wife is the person that I bounce my ideas off, and she tells me when it's shit and she tells me when it's good. So
Yeah.
it's nice to always have that person to like really get that off. And I agree. The military part of Paragon Exordium, would you call it a military fantasy? I know that's a big chunk of it.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
would you call it that?
I call it genre bending because it really toes so many
Definitely.
different lines because the setting is so different from pretty much anything on the market, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But definitely, military fantasy it's like 65% of it.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it on that front, honestly. It felt gritty and well grounded as far as like that whole storyline went, which was honestly my favorite part of the story. I loved all that entire group of the band. Oh, God, and the Black Sword and everything. It's just so cool. But it is a very unique setting. You kind of blend a lot of like modern urban fantasy with like
Mhm.
classic Tolkien-esque fantasy. Uh, for those of you who are not or for those of our guests who are not familiar with your book, how would you describe it?
I've been going with rural dystopian fantasy lately. because urban is like typically you think like werewolves and vampires, big cities and stuff. This is like South Georgia, and it's much more epic fantasy, and it's apocalyptic, and the closest we usually can get with stories like that is dystopian. So I've been doing a lot of pitches. We did Dragon Con recently. We're basically because there's a new season of Fallout coming out. We're like it's like Fallout meets Lord of the Rings, but set in Georgia. So it ties in a lot of different story elements and puts them in its own kind of fresh setting in South Georgia. It's like where we I've lost my train of thought.
No, no worries. I think Lord of the Rings meets Fallout is a pretty accurate description of it. And if you are a fan of either, I think this would be great for those kind of people. So, back to my original question that I always ask first, but we had to do a little bit of a detour.
Mhm.
How did you get to where you are today? Like, where did the writing bug really start for you?
Yeah, so I got the concept of the book in high school. I was like 13, and my dad showed me the movie Red Dawn while I was reading through Lord of the Rings. And so I just had a dream that was like a mesh. It's like, oh, what if Red Dawn but magic creatures, right? So that's where the idea came from. I brainstormed it for the next 10 years or so throughout high school and college. And then once I graduated college, I didn't have any debt because I'd worked my fingers to the bone. So I was like, I have time in this period before my wife graduates to work on something. So I was like, I'm going to take the next 2 years and crank this book out. It then proceeded to take 6.5 years. But that was kind of where I really locked in and worked on it was starting back in 2017 is when I was like, I'm going to do this. And I even did that even to get started. I've got essential tremors, so my handwriting's always been really bad. So before I even got started, I retaught myself how to write, and then wrote the entire first act of the book by hand because that was a technique. Ray Bradbury would type all his stuff out on a typewriter, and I really like the idea of how that forces you to choose your words so carefully because there's less room for mistakes. And so I wanted to do that by hand and retrain my brain to write physically. And so that's how the very first act was gotten out. So that's been a process that I no longer do because it's not very efficient, especially with a co-author. I'm not going to be writing letters back and forth. 6 years is long enough. We don't need to add snail mail to the process.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Man, I can't imagine writing that much of it by hand at all. Like, especially with like, hmm, hold on, let me think about this for a sec. Because people do tend to take longer for their debut novel. Like, that's the one that they tend to take like up to a decade for. I've talked
Right.
to a few people where it has taken that long. And why do you think it is that people take so long to get to their debut, but then they quickly start turning around and they'll pump out a book like every 1 to 3 years or every 5 years, depending on who you are?
I mean, a lot of it has to do with just becoming familiar with your craft, right? Just exercise, muscle memory, and stuff. Getting the reps in and knowing what you're doing. Especially with a debut novel, if you're setting up a world or a universe, you have to establish the rules, and I think that takes some of the longest amount of time. Was Dave likes to say when we're writing book one, it was like building a car underneath us while driving it. You know, now that we're in book two, we've got the framework of the car. The car's driving. We're just doing some maintenance and adding a fresh coat of paint.
So at what point during that process, you're transitioning and meeting Dave and everything, when did you feel like you were an author? You're no longer a writer, you're no longer messing around. I'm an author now.
That's a tricky question because it was sort of a gradual process. Because back when I started doing this early in the process, I opened up a Patreon, and I had a lot of people supporting me on Patreon where I was releasing chapters every month. And so they were getting sneak peeks at what was coming and reading the chapters and reading the book as it progressed in earlier draft versions that existed prior to beta reads and stuff. So I think really then is when it started to feel like it when I'm starting to get comments from people being like, "Hey, I really like this about this chapter," or "Hey, can't wait for the next one." Stuff like that is when that's really started for me.
Yeah. No, I feel that I've been very fortunate that for a while in the beginning of my process, I was with a writing group, Writers Anonymous in Dallas. You guys know who you are. And if it weren't for them, I would not have gotten through my first draft. But having that immediate feedback to like weekly or biweekly writing, it does so much for you. It holds you accountable. You get all that nice, useful feedback, and if you're critiquing other people too, you also learn a lot by why do I like this? Why do I not like this? And then you
Mhm.
can apply that to your own writing. Uh, have you ever had the chance to work within a writing group before, or has it mostly been yourself and then you seek out that feedback?
I mean, I've had a writing group specifically. I've got like a group of friends in my Discord that I've built up of other authors and stuff that I sort of will bounce ideas off each other and whatnot. And
Nice.
we've done a lot of the beta reading for book two, and I've done some beta reading for them and stuff. So yeah, to a degree,
Nice. That is something I do like a lot about the community a lot is
yeah,
the exchange of services with each other,
right,
of like beta reading each other and be like, hey, I'll read yours if you read mine in like 6 months when I'm ready. And we're like, yeah, man, we got you.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it saves a lot of time and money.
Yeah, and you know people's styles, and you know what works for you, and what if you're familiar with their writing, it can help you kind of pick and choose. Whereas you're not throwing the spaghetti at the wall with like Fiverr or something, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to get a paid beta reader, but I don't know what they are interested in or what their skills or qualifications are. I can use someone who's like, I know they've written and published this many books, and I like their writing style. So
Yeah. So you respect their opinion. You know they
right,
know what they're talking about.
right,
No, that makes sense. So how did you then develop your style as you were learning throughout those you said in 5 or 6 years?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how did you develop your style during that time? And like, are there any particular like books or media that really influenced you on that?
I mean, I've been reading since I very early. One of my first memories is my dad reading me The Hobbit. So as far as style goes, it's a culmination of just years and years and decades of reading already. One of the things we were focused on with our style was I wanted it to be more or less clean because I have younger siblings. I wanted to be able to read it. But I also wanted people to be able to enjoy it at multiple ages. So we wrote it for adults, but we made it accessible in language and content to older kids, like teenagers and stuff. And so that was part of the process, was trying to find a middle ground between those two where it doesn't lose any of its substance or depth while still being easily understood by people capable of reading at that level. Um, as for direct influence and stuff, I mean, there's influences of Tolkien and Christopher Paolini, who has my favorite magic system, and stuff like that. While we were working on our second draft, Dave had me read Joe Abercrombie's The First Law trilogy because he really liked the character work of Glocta, and he's like, I want to try and do character work of this caliber. Let's study and review and read these together and see what we can learn and glean from that, because you've got a character who's really despicable, but you're rooting for him the whole time. And so we have one or two characters of that nature where they're either just completely despicable and everyone despises them, or they're characters who I'm like, I want people to dislike this character from the beginning. There's one character who, as soon as I wrote him, Dave hated him. And now he's one of Dave's favorite characters. And Dave's like, I want to write his big chapter in book two. Right. So that's a little badge of honor to get your co author to like a character enough. But we've also worked together to get that character to that point.
I was as you were describing that, I'm thinking of the characters and I'm like, no, it's not that one because they didn't make it. No, it's not that one because he said he. I'm not sure which one you're talking about now. Hmm.
Gunter.
I'm gonna. Oh, oh. Okay, I got you. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Right?
Read the book so you know what I'm talking
There
about,
you
people.
go.
Ah, that is a good one. Okay. First of all, I started with The Hobbit as well. It was the
Mhm.
very first book my dad ever handed to me and said, hey, I know you hate school. I know you hate reading, but try this.
Right.
And that just kickstarted a lifelong love of like fantasy and stories in general. I feel like The Hobbit is a starting point for like a lot of people of our generation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Joe Abercrombie, I've heard so much about him. I need to get into him, but I've heard his character work is absolutely amazing.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I definitely I have strong opinions about his work. It's grimdark for
Yeah.
sure. Anyone who says differently, you're not really paying attention. And that element of it is what I don't like about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I appreciate it for what it is, but it he had a point in one of his books where he had a character do something. I'm like, this was the only character I like actually liked as a person, and you had him do something that was unforgivable. And now I don't like
Yeah.
them, and I don't like not liking anyone in the series. Like, they're well written characters, but I wanted one character that was a
You need
half
someone to root
decent person.
for.
Yeah, and I'm not rooting for any of these people.
Yeah, and that's really what like grimdark is all about. Is
It
like
is.
the world is dark, the world is hopeless, the people are dark and hopeless. But you know what? There's a job to get done, and people are going to do it.
Yeah.
That's why I really like. Have you heard of Noble Dark Fantasy?
I haven't heard of that, but I like the sound of it.
Yes. So there is this. It's this wheel that people have come up with. I can't remember what the origin of it was. It was some kind of blog post, and grimdark is one side,
Mhm.
and it's pretty much an axis of uh, grim and bright,
Yeah.
and light and dark.
Okay, that makes sense.
So grimdark is the world is horrible and the people are horrible.
Right.
Noble dark is the world is horrible, but people are hopeful. Like
Mm,
change is possible.
okay.
And then there's noble bright, which is the world is light and hopeful, and people are light and hopeful. And then
Right.
some darkness is coming to destroy this paradise.
Okay.
And then there's the fourth one that I can't remember the combination of it.
Cozy
I think
fantasy.
it's Noble Grim?
Noble
No,
Grim.
Grim Light.
Grim Light. Okay.
Grim Light is where like the world is bright and fuzzy,
Mm,
but the characters are dark and hopeless. That
okay.
one's not as common. You don't see a lot of that one,
Yeah, I like
but
Noble
I
Dark though,
really
because
like that spectrum.
we say a
Mhm.
lot of times that we toe the line of grimdark in our series, and I think as it goes on, it's going to toe that line a lot more. But I like that as a that's a much more appealing vernacular.
I would definitely call your story Noble Dark. Like the world is rough. There's a lot of difficult things that people are dealing with, but everyone's trying their best to like make it to tomorrow, to hold on to hope. And yes, you have villains that are horrible people, but you also have a lot of people that you can root for, unlike Joe Abercrombie or Game of Thrones, where everyone sucks.
Right, right.
Jumping back on topic,
Sure.
can you describe the process for like getting your first book to publishing and what that felt like to you to finally have that book in your hands for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, we well, when we finished it, we our when we finally had a draft that we felt like was ready for people with a complete story, we're at about 191,000 words. And so at that point, we're like, we need beta readers, we need feedback before this is ready to move on to the next stage and do querying and stuff. And so we got a bunch of beta readers, tried to make sure they were distanced enough from us. I wasn't as involved online with other writing communities as I am now, which was a disadvantage. But we got the beta readers and we got their feedback, and their feedback overwhelmingly was we like it, but we want more in certain areas, which was like with a almost 200,000 word thing, we were worried people would be like, cut this and this and this, but it was overwhelmingly like more here, please, and proceed. And so we ended up adding about 40,000 words to expand on certain things. And then it became a debate of, okay, well, this is really long for a debut. Should we split this into two novels and try and make it a little easier on us as we go into querying stuff? And our ultimate decision was, well, let's see what querying is. Because my concern was like, if we split this into two novels, and Dave completely agreed on this, if we split this into two novels, we're going to want to use the time we have available now to explore the things in the story that those things spend more time on, if that makes sense. Um, we would end up with two equally long novels if we split it because we would want to focus in on all the characters and stuff that we have more time to explore. Right. And so it's like, let's not split it yet. And so we made the decision to query and try and go traditional. And we queried for a full year. And I submitted to over 150. I lost count after 150 different publishers and agents and stuff. And overwhelmingly, the feedback we got was, "It's good, but not for me. It's good. It's not the market." Or you are. This is a debut novel that is massive, and your co-authors, and it's not the market genre. So it was just rejection after rejection after rejection, which is just tough to get through. But when all the rejections that aren't formulaic and actually give us feedback are just like, hey, it's not what I'm looking for, but we like the writing style and stuff, we got in our heads, we're like, okay, so we've got something, just no one's willing to take the risk on us. So let's try it ourselves and see what happens. So then it became hiring a professional editor, and we did that, and we've changed editors since then because the one we hired did not do a great job. I don't think his first language was English, honestly, because he was like, when we got the feedback, it was like missing things that people who speak English as a first language wouldn't miss. Um, or like one example was like, The Office has taken the show. The Office has taken the phrase how the table turns and now people our age, at least the ones I talk to, just say how the turntables, which is a reference made in the book that just completely went over the head of the person reading it. I was like, maybe that wasn't the best choice. But now we have a different editor who's much better. Um, so the editing and then just proceeding to publishing, trying to figure out who we want as a cover artist. It was a long process.
How do you feel about that at this point? Like, having gone through the process of querying for a while, do you still think you got a lot out of that from the feedback that you did receive?
I think the experience is necessary because I don't have to live with the wonder of it, live with well, what if we had of it, the regret potentially. The feedback I got, it was enough to push us over the edge because we felt like we had something good based on the feedback we'd already gotten. So I wish I'd jumped ship on it sooner, and jumped into self-publishing sooner. I wish I'd done more research for self-publishing and built up a following and stuff online before I did. But I don't necessarily regret it, really.
I'm actually kind of curious. What was it about being a duo author, like co-authors? Like, that's a negative?
It's a negative because they have to figure out royalties, and we're a debut. So debut, anything
Mm,
they can hold against you, they will if you're not tried and true.
okay.
But yeah, it
And I
was
guess
like, well,
my
how are we going to work out rights? We don't want to pay two people. And that wasn't something brought up a lot. In fact, after the first time it got brought up, we just stopped mentioning it.
no, you don't need to know this.
If listen, if you like the story enough, then it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Exactly.
So then what would you advise people they've written their first book, they're trying to decide if they want to go traditional or indie publishing.
hmm
What advice would you give someone who's trying to make that choice?
I think it's worth looking into and spending some time on it. I think the thing to keep in mind is that publishers are there to make money, and they decide that based on market and not on what makes a good story. And a lot of publishers, and this is from spending a lot of time querying stuff, what their qualifications are is, I would argue, questionable whether or not they actually understand what a good book is so much as they understand how to market something.
I've gotten a lot of mixed information about traditional publishing. I know a few people that are in it, and it's worked out for them and
Yeah,
good for them.
absolutely.
Uh, but I do like the availability of indie and how much of a this like grassroots, almost like sub economy has
Yeah.
grown around it between like cover artists and editing and beta reading and just all these things that people can reach out to each other to do.
I think we're on the brink of a novel renaissance. I think we're in the middle of the brink of a shift in the market. The If it had happened a little sooner, that's the tricky thing with things like Amazon, where they make it easier and more available, but they also have a stranglehold. I think the marketing world, and I think Book Talk's been a big contributor to this, and literacy rates overall. I think the market is really shifting, and indie authors becoming a more of a powerhouse than they would have been able to 15 years ago. I think it's a very viable alternative. There's a lot of authors I know who are indie who wouldn't dream of going traditional at this point, which I don't think many of them would have said 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are just happy where they're at. There's also a small but growing group of people that are really aiming for the hybrid, where they want to do like
Mhm.
some of them themselves, but try to get that traditional deal for like one or two of their books.
Yeah.
And I think that concept is very interesting. We'll see. So, what advice would you give to people who are trying to get into the book community then? Because you said you started out this process with you and your co author. Before you decided to indie publish, you weren't really that entrenched into it. And now, like, you have your streams, your podcasts, your multiple hats, which I will be asking about soon. But what advice would you give people?
Yeah, I mean, figure out what space works best for you and invest in that space. Invest in other authors and creatives. Um, here's a genuine piece of advice that I don't love, but invest in what's popular. Use what's popular to pull yourself up, and then you can invest more in things that are less popular. Because I think something I've noticed, especially with like TikTok, is the indie author community is a phenomenal community, but the algorithm boxes it into itself. And so when I launched, all I cared about was other indie authors and supporting other indie authors. I didn't care about supporting or reading what was popular because I'd read stuff for years and I just wasn't interested for the most part in what things were popular. And I tried Fourth Wing, and that was a no go for me. Not an and that like killed the idea of reading what's popular for me. And so I think the algorithm pigeonholed me into an area where it's indie authors surrounded by indie authors. And so it doesn't push my content out to people who aren't already a part of that community, which that community grows and that's helpful and stuff, but it hasn't helped me to expand because the thing about social media is people want to see things they're familiar with and they recognize. And so use the things that are familiar and recognizable to build your platform, and then you can transition to and help carry and pick up others, in my opinion.
I think that's great advice. What is the most helpful thing to you so far in building out your platform?
That I mean, the most successful like series is, I mean, it's being relatable and being engaging, right? Engaging with one another, engaging with other authors, reading other people's books and stuff. Having a unique take on things, a unique perspective, a way to engage with people uniquely. Early on, when I was doing book talk, I did a series. And I haven't done it in a while, but I did a series that was basically give me some facts about yourself, and I'll rate your odds of surviving in my world. And people who commented on the original video would get a video responding to them and giving those details and stuff. And that's something I still do at conventions and stuff. I got flags I carry around and say, "Would you survive the magical apocalypse? Ask me." So finding unique hooks and finding things similar to yours that you can copy off the ideas of.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of you guys at Dragon Con in the three hats and the flags, and I couldn't tell what the flags were saying, but I loved the whole idea of just running around with the banners like you're samurai.
Yeah. One says it's just the title of the series. One says elves on a tank fighting orcs in Atlanta, which is a hook that
That
gets
sums it up
people more
pretty
time.
good.
Yeah, more than people are like, "What is that? I have to know." And the other one
I'm
just
pretty
says,
sure that's how you got me, by the way,
yeah.
was you and I were talking online, and you're like, "Yeah, it's elves on a tank fighting orcs." I'm like, "What?"
That's usually the hook. That's usually if someone's, like, not sure, that's what gets them. And then the other one, it just says, "Would you survive the magical apocalypse? Ask me," as a sort of call to action to get people to come talk to me and stuff. And so, yeah, that's kinda what I did for a while with videos, and I still do that in conventions and stuff.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like just do you find that it's better to do these one-off videos or the ones that are like a series of like, "Welcome back, we're doing this again"?
I think that varies by person.
Okay.
I've been sort of in a kind of an aimless space with my creativity over the last couple months, just because life has sapped a lot of that out of me as far as
Yeah.
production goes, and I'm trying to figure out and go back to the things that do work and figure out what those are, because I don't have the energy or the mind space to really dive into analytics and stuff.
Yeah. That actually really transitions into my next question very well. How do you handle like the self doubt and the rejection as you go through this process? Like, what keeps you motivated to keep pushing forward?
Game of Thrones and The Name of the Wind are what keep me motivated to keep going forward. If you're
Say
familiar with
more on that.
with George R. R. Martin or Patrick Rothfuss, is neither of them have finished their series.
Hmm.
How dare you finish your series? I need to know. Is that's my primary motivator? It's between spite of people who said I couldn't do it and just like this is what I want to do and people think I can, and I want to get it done. I don't want to leave it unfinished. You know.
Nice. Hey, man, if spite will get you there, spite will get you there.
It's
That's
it's
awesome.
a it's a powerful motivator. It is not a reliable motivator, I think.
Okay. Is that something you're kind of like working through and just trying to figure out how to become more consistent?
With spite?
No, not with spite, just the motivator. If spite is what you want to be your consistent
No,
motivator, you do you, man.
spite hasn't been my motivator for a long, long time.
Okay.
Um, I'm what's what's the question?
So you're talking about how like spite is very powerful, but not a
Yeah.
consistent motivator.
Ah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
asking, is that something that you're trying to transition from to become more consistent? Or
Oh,
are you just kind of riding the wave of, I have this spike of motivation and time, I'm going to do it?
yeah. I mean, I'm not motivated by spite so much as I have people relying on me to get this series done. You know, and it's my what I'm writing on right now, and it changes from time to time, right? What I'm writing right now is how close we are, it feels, to popping off. Like we're so close to hitting that next level of success and it taking root, and it just needs a little more steam to just get us through to the other side, and really blow up enough. So I mean, I haven't actually written in a couple weeks. Well, actually, probably a couple months at this point. It's bad. I need to get back into actually writing, and I'm trying to transition through into that. So
Yeah, it's hard to build that momentum. Like, I feel like that's the hardest part of the whole process is just getting started, building that momentum, and
yeah,
then once you have it, it becomes easier to maintain. But you definitely get hit by those days every once in a while where it's just like, I just don't have it in me to do this today, and then you try to do it anyways.
yeah, yeah, and
It can
that's
be rough.
key. Is even when you don't have the feeling for it, forcing yourself to. Because you can
Yeah.
always edit it later.
Oh yeah. Like make it exist first, just like
Right,
everyone says. It could be a giant pile of crap. You can polish it to a diamond. It will be fine.
right, right.
Man. So then how do you balance like the writing and everything that you're trying to push forward with that, with like engaging on your platform and everything, with your responsibilities outside of writing?
I mean, usually I would just write late at night when I had the peace and the quiet. I have a 2-year-old now. I'm married. I haven't written much this year just because this year's been insane. It started with me losing a job and then 4 months trying to get a job and then getting a new job, and that new job was so intense that I didn't have time to write or create, and then losing that job. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg on everything that's happened. So it's just it's making the time for it, which I just haven't been doing lately, to be perfectly honest. Here and now, I haven't in the way I have because my brain's been so overwhelmed and distracted. So now it's going to be okay. I've got a thing that needs finishing. People are asking where the next book is already, right? And I'm telling them, well, we were supposed to do it this year. Now it's going to come out next year, and I don't want next year to become next winter. Um, so it's like I got things I got to do. I got to get them done.
First of all, man, sorry you're having such a rough year. Like that
Yeah.
definitely happens. But I definitely want to say as well though, like do not worry about people asking about when the next book is gonna come out. You know it's going to come out. And that's really that all that matters. When you get working on it and you get done with it, don't worry about what other people are saying about it because that happens from what I've been talking to a lot of people about to everyone who releases their first book. Like almost immediately people start asking, when is the next one coming out? And it's also something I have noticed with a lot of people that debut is they work really hard. They get that debut novel out and there's just this high of like I've released a book, I'm doing all the promoting, I'm doing all these things and it burns you out. Like it takes a lot out of you, a lot of your creativity. And I've known several authors that don't write for almost a year after they debut because it demands so much of you and so much stress to do it this first time. Yeah. So don't stress yourself out too much about it, man.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
guess that's all I'm trying to say.
no, and I appreciate that. And I'm not stressing too much. We're just on like, we're done with beta reads for book two.
Mhm.
So now it's the final set of edits. And I've got two
Ah.
giant documents with beta reader feedback that I've looked at, and I know what I need to do.
Mhm.
I just got to start doing.
No, I hear
I
that.
got to get it ready to go to the professional editor. It's
Yeah.
one of the worst parts about it. It's one of the worst parts of the whole process anyway, is that semifinal stage, and that
Yeah.
for that to be where everything crashes. It's like
Oh my god.
gotta rebuild the engine and get it kickstarted.
Nah, you're gonna get there, man. You've done it
Yeah.
once before, you can do it again.
Oh yeah.
I have complete faith in you.
I appreciate that.
I'm at that stage right now where it's like it's off to
Mhm.
editing, and there's like nothing much for me to do until I get like chapter by chapter feedback. So I'm just twiddling my thumbs here,
Right.
going like, what am I gonna write next?
Yeah.
But I like this stage of it. But beta reading, that was probably my favorite. When
Yeah.
beta readers were coming back, that was probably one of my favorite parts so far.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
so much fun.
oh yeah. I've heard a lot of people say they like drafting. A lot of people like editing. What is your favorite section of the bookmaking process?
Reviews. No, probably the beta reader section. It's so interesting to have the first eyes outside of the team looking at something and seeing who gets things and who doesn't. So we've had this last beta read. We had one young guy who was a high schooler who was a big fan of our work that we allowed to beta read book two, and just the way he got it, like the things he recognized that we were trying to do was just so exciting. And like every time I get an email with his feedback, I'd be like, all right, Dave, we got an email. Let's look at this. Let's see what he got. And he kept getting what we were going for and getting the references and stuff we were making to such a degree that it was like so refreshing. And we'd go and we'd be like, all right, let's look at the other people's beta feedback. And it's good and stuff, but it wasn't hitting the way this guy's was, which was just super
Yeah.
interesting that it was hitting the way it was.
He was just locked in
He was
on what
locked.
you
He
were
got it.
making.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to see that from someone who, and I mean, he's a huge fan. It's super. That's really has been one of the biggest, like, you're an author now thing. Is this dude drove 4 hours to see me at Dragon Con,
That's so
and he like shook my
cool.
hand. He's like, "This is like meeting George R. R. Martin for me." I was like, "Excuse me, I need 20 of you."
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah, that
very
had to be
special.
so validating in that moment.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, yeah. He's a cool guy.
That's awesome. See, that's your target audience right there.
Yeah,
Lock in
and
on this
there
dude,
it's
learn
true.
everything about him.
It's true, and that's something I'm also with future series. So like this one is intended. It's written for adults, but intended for a wider audience. I want to try and hone in more on that young adult, young dude audience. Not to say this isn't good for them, because I very much think this series is primed for them. I just think it's not who I'm targeting necessarily. But I think there's a focus on messages that it's really interesting to see younger people get them versus older people getting what's being communicated in the story.
I see what you mean. Like there are adult parts of the book. Like there
Mhm.
is a lot of violence, and that violence is described.
Right.
But I feel like the things that tend to make books like too adult for like kids and stuff like that is usually just subject matter.
Yeah.
Like when you start bringing in like very grimdark things where
Right.
everyone is cursing up a storm every other word and just saying piss this and fuck that and all these things, and just like when you start pulling like sexual assault into your
Right.
stories and stuff like that, which I personally have a very low tolerance for.
I do as well.
Uh, yeah. Uh, but your books, I say, like you're saying, they toe the line of that grimdark. Like they are violent, and but it is a type of violence that you see in. How do I describe this? It's hard to describe because like
Right.
I've read a lot of books like this. It's like R.A. Salvatore. Are you
Okay.
familiar?
Mhm.
His Legend of Driss series, everything that he does with Artemis Entry,
Mhm.
they're very violent, but they're also open to all ages. A child can read it, an adult can read it, and it is very enjoyable. And I
Yeah.
would say like your book hits that right in the middle as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we were going for. So that's encouraging to hear.
Success.
Success.
Okay, I've delayed it long enough. I have to know. Tell me about the hats. You have a red one, a blue one, and a green one. How did
Yeah.
that all start?
So the funny thing about the hats starting, I initially, were you on TikTok or the internet when the Gnome Wars happened?
I don't think
So there
so.
was this trend. So somebody dressed up as a gnome and like went into like a department store and like harassed some people and took a video of it, and it was really funny. And it turned into like this war online of the knights versus the gnomes and the wizards, and people just dressing up as these characters and like making videos about them fighting and capturing them and all this stuff. And so I was like, "This is really funny. I want to engage with this." And back then, I was wearing like Apocalypse battle gear in my videos and stuff. And so I bought a wizard hat because I was like, well, I want to do part of the wizard side and make videos like that. And I matched it to my book cover. So we've got the blues and the grays and the kind of purples. So I went with a blue and gray hat. And people just liked the hat so much in my videos, and I liked wearing it. So it just kind of stuck. And then I was like, well, I want to keep doing the wizard hat thing because I wore it to conventions and stuff, and it helped draw people in. because there's like, oh, that nice hat, that's fun, and he's got pins in it and stuff. And so I was like, I want to keep doing this, and so I was like, 3 hats is what we're going to go with, and we're going to match each of them to the 3 books in the Galvorn saga. And so I got the green hat with the gray, which matches the cover for book 2. We're going to just drop things and make a lot of noise here. So that's that cover.
Whoa. Oh, yes, I have seen this cover. Oh, man. I absolutely love it with the white cape billowing out. He's just
Yeah.
standing there like a badass. Yeah,
Yeah, so
he's
that
awesome.
hat's over there somewhere, but it matches that one. And then I was going to Dragon Con, and Dave was going with me, and we had a third buddy of mine who was going to just be along for the ride to help out. I was like, so we need 3 hats. If he's going to be with us dressing up, he needs a third hat, and the third book's going to be. I already know what the colors of the theme of the third book are, so we got the third hat, and we got this now. So, um, and then I'm trying. I've got 2 different book accounts on TikTok because I'm trying to. I initially made the second one as a way to try and escape the damage I'd done to my algorithm with the first one. When I first got on Book Talk, I did like a follow parties and stuff. I just didn't know what I was doing, and I think it hurt me from the like production side point, where they thought I was a bot and I got flagged and stuff. And so I was trying to find a purpose for that other one where I was just posting sort of more meaningless stuff. But now what I'm trying to do with the green hat account versus the blue hat account is the green hat account is going to focus more on broader marketing stuff, and less on engaging with other indie authors to try and break out of that indie author kind of collective group that it's in. Whereas the blue hat's going to continue making videos about other indie author stuff, supporting them, commenting on, engaging their stuff. I'm really bad at it so far because if I see someone's stuff I like, I'm this stuff. So I'm trying to not recreate the same algorithm and try and separate the two out and push them in different directions to increase my coverage and increase my reach.
Nice. I hope that works out for you. And it looks like the red hat is now for interviews?
For the time being.
No?
Yeah, or it's also I don't know what account this video is gonna go on.
Okay.
So if I'm not sure if it's
Well,
gonna be a green hat or a blue hat video, it's a red hat until we decide.
we're in the negative
We're in
zone
the
when you
net,
wear the
yeah,
red
right.
hat. We're in between the realms. So
Yeah, yeah, there's
I like
there's
this
theories
one.
on what personality each hat is associated with by some people, which maybe I could lean more into that, I don't know.
I don't know. They do say color affects us.
They do. Red is far more hostile. It's the evil
That is
hat,
true.
someone theorized.
It's the berserker hat. Well,
Yeah.
muscle wizard.
I mean,
There we go.
when book 3 comes out, they'll definitely think it's the evil hat, I'll say that.
Okay, this is good to know. What can you tell us about book two? You have the cover
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
You're still working on it. Do you have a release date out yet, or like a time of year that you're aiming for?
Spring.
No pressure.
No, you're good. Spring 2026 is what we're aiming for. I don't have a set date because I don't like to. I'll have a set date when I'm done with it. Uh, I don't wanna give one and then not fulfill that. So spring next year is what we're aiming for if we can really crack down on it. But we'll see when the audiobook is a whole different ballgame. It's
I
been
have heard. I listened to the first book. The narration was great. The
oh,
story was super
Cormac's
fun to listen
wonderful.
to. Are you bringing him back for the second one?
I'm trying to.
I believe in you. You
It
got this.
so Cormac had never narrated an audiobook before, believe it or not, which is
Wow,
crazy. Yeah, right? He's
that's
incredible.
impressive.
And he did royalty share because he believed in the project. Um,
Nice.
which is huge because normally a 24-hour audiobook would cost a lot of money. And
Yeah.
so he just gets half the royalties from it, which is great. So he's sort of made some changes in his production schedule and stuff, and how he's like signed with an agent now and stuff. So his availability has shifted, and so I
Uh,
need to be able to give him like, hey, here's when we need it done by. But it's a question of he's like it's a lot of work,
yeah.
and he is worth the money. Like it maybe we have if we have to be like, hey, give me a quote and we'll kickstart it. That's what we'll do to bring Cormac back because he's great. He's
Yeah.
doing one of the stories for Apocrypha, which he's just like, I'll just do it for free. It's not that long. Just because he's a
Oh,
cool dude,
it's
and
very kind
like
of
I
him.
said, he believes in the project and stuff. So we had some really good months here lately. So maybe that'll be enough for him to be like, okay, yeah, it is a long term investment that is actually going to work out. So
Hey, man, I hope it works out for you. Like I said, he was a great narrator. Good choice for your story and the tone.
yeah, he nailed it. He really did.
All right. We are getting towards the end of the episode. Could you tell the people where could they find you? Where can they find your books?
Yeah. Michael Melwasul, anywhere that it's social media exists. I'm the same across all platforms. MikelMelwasul. The books are available everywhere books are available. Exordium is available on Kindle Unlimited for the time being. It's also available exclusively audio book on Audible. I have signed copies on Etsy that come with stickers and extra fun goodies and all that good stuff, which will have some sprayed edge ones in the near future. Same for Apocrypha. It's not available on audiobook yet, but our audiobook is coming out this year for Apocrypha, which is a short story collection in the same world and is featuring 12 different narrators.
That's going to be awesome. Michael, thank you so much for coming on to the show. And people, tune in next week. We're going to have him right back on as we talk about subverting tropes. All right, folks, until next time, let's be author adjacent together. See ya. Awesome. You did great, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
It's like you're a pro.
it.